Morning, everyone. Hello, Sean. Glad to have you with us today. Hopefully, my microphone is working at the moment. I looked up that Eclipse safety lamp that you were talking about a while ago, Sean. And it looked pretty cool, but I couldn't tell from those eBay listings exactly everything that you explained over there in the comments. So that seems like a really cool device. Some engineering went into that. Yeah, it's always good to know. I see a lot of stuff in antique malls and even in old, like junk lots online. So it's always good to know a little bit about a lot of things, and you kind of get educated on some of it just as you go along. But you explaining all that was very helpful. It didn't look like those were cheap either. Several $100s for most of them, and the minimum. I didn't spend a lot of time analyzing the listings, but there were, looks like the bottom was like 100 or 150 for most of them listed there. And does yours work, Sean? Is it everything about it work like it's supposed to? The lock is broken. Yeah, that was interesting. I'm familiar with like lockout, tag out type procedures just from the way that equipment was worked on at the Postal Service. But I hadn't thought about somebody engineering something with that kind of a safety component on it. I wonder exactly how old those lamps are. Can't remember whether you explained that to me in our conversation or not. Trying to decide whether to change out that wick. And I think I will. Just because that one's so dirty. I can still include it when I sell the lighter if that's important to the buyer to have the original wick. But that doesn't look to me like it's going to function very well. And I don't cut on these old wicks anymore. You can see how those solid foam fuel cells in these park lighters, they get contaminated pretty often, and usually at least by the plastic that, or the dye that bleeds out of the plastic in those screws. But that one's obviously got other problems. Looks like maybe some kind of oil or rust. And some dark colored contamination as well. But we're just going to take and poke straight down through the chimney on this wick so that we can get some leverage there to get a hold of that fuel cell. And the wicks that I pull out of these old park lighters are some of the most unimpressive. They just don't look like they were very well constructed. Frayed, and anyway, probably not the most viable of options if you're going to use a lighter like that. And all the lighters that I sell, especially the ones that are used, then I'm selling them as working lighters. So no reason to leave that old wick in there. And with this solid foam fuel cell being what it is, probably not a whole lot of, well, I'm going to go ahead and clean that chimney out a little bit first. Let's see if I can find a toothpick. You know, that right there that you mentioned, Sean, about the seller not mentioning that, you know, that's something that I see people complaining a lot about with people that sell lighters. And you can usually tell when you go look at what that seller sells, what they've sold in the last 90 days. Excuse me. And, you know, you can figure out whether or not they sell what you bought, whether that was, you know, do they sell lighters? Do they sell those lamps? Do they specialize in something? And if they do, then yeah, they should know most things. But you know, there are a lot of nuances on different devices that, especially if you're not a specialist with that particular lamp, I could see where they might not know that. But in that case, they obviously shouldn't be, they don't know enough then to be selling it as fully working if that aspect of it is broke. Just one second, I'm trying to find a toothpick so I can clean that chimney. Well, if he sells many of those lamps, then yeah, he should have known that lock was broke. That's for sure. What's up, Naphtha? Good to see you today. Weather is pretty mild here in Oklahoma City. I hope it's nice for you there in Tulsa. Which, by the way, Naphtha, have you been watching any of that new Sylvester Stallone TV show, Tulsa King? It's a pretty good show, kind of funny, interesting, but it's set in Tulsa, but a lot of the filming was done here in Oklahoma City. And watching this past Sunday night's episode, there were a lot of scenes. They have the old Opubco building up here at 4th and Broadway, doubling as the Mayo Hotel in Tulsa. But anyway, kind of cool exposure for the state of Oklahoma. That's about as well as we're going to clean that out. Maybe mop a little bit more of that out. You always got buildup in these old lighters that have been used. Blow that out the best I can. What kind of mini bike are you working on, Natha? Yeah, that's what I usually do. I'm not big on leaving negative for things like that. Sean, I'm more likely not to leave feedback than I'm just, unless somebody just flat as a crook, I don't leave negative feedback. Yeah, Naphtha, you should check it out, man. It's a pretty good show. I've watched the last 3 episodes and is interesting, especially with all the dispensaries around here, and that's sort of part of the storyline. So, but in one of those scenes this past week where they were supposed to be driving around Tulsa, his driver picked him up right up here at the old Pubco building, which, like I said, is doubling as the Mayo Hotel. And then when they were driving around, you could see the Oklahoma County Jail in the background of several of those scenes, which was, or I should say, which is several blocks west of that old Pubco building. So about a half a wick for these park lighters with the solid foam fuel cell. See if we have any problem sliding that back. I want to put the dirty side back out. I have a buddy that a couple years ago, when I started making these kind of videos, told me that I needed to take care of my hands, that I was basically a hand model. And I can see right now that my hands are really dry, so I apologize to you guys for that. See if I can find a Flint around here somewhere. Pick one out of something else. I think it's interesting in Histoire d'une Flamme's videos over on TikTok. He has so many different fuel cans and Flint dispensers that he pulls out a different one. Some of them, I think, specialize to that brand, but tons of Flint dispensers other than Zippa Flint or the little Ronson, those yellow things that sort of you bend to get the Flint out. What's up, Histoire? Didn't realize you were in the room when I mentioned you. Glad you're here. Not sure if you were here when I said that, but those all those different fuel canisters and Flint dispensers you have for I swear you could, it seems like I've watched dozens of videos in a row and didn't see the same one twice. Might have to go grab some fuel. Yeah, your ears were burning. Fuel this up, hopefully not waste any of it here on the table. Slider was part of that group of 20 parks, and oh, there were a couple of Windmasters. Pretty basic, just script, but fairly nice lighter too. Brush finish and kind of a satin around the edges. The hinge isn't super tight, but not busted up loose either. I would definitely note that in the listing as the hinge being a little loose, but nothing major. Yeah, so at least I didn't overfill it. Maybe I didn't quite get enough fuel in it for it to take that long, but we should be fine here if I let that sit for a minute. Yeah, you're right, Sean. It's kind of cool. Even if, like I said, with that Tulsa King, I'm seeing my town, um, but it's being portrayed as NAFTA's town. So that's kind of funny. But, you know, we all knew when the shooting was going on around here, and they would have streets blocked off here and there. So it was kind of interesting to me to see where those different locations work into it so far. This old this old felt pad is pretty contaminated. But still looks pretty clean inside. And I'm not sure about this wick. Probably no better than the one that we just pulled out of the other lighter. And since this one needs to have the tube cleared anyway, then we might as well go ahead and pull that wick out and replace it. Yeah, Sean's asking about what Stallone was up to. I know here a month or so ago there was stuff all over the news about he and his wife splitting. And I think he's got a reality show out right now too, maybe, or coming soon. And apparently his wife filed for divorce. But then he seemed to cry about it in the public a little bit, and next thing you know, they're apparently back together. We would use the rest of that wick Well, no, we probably won't because we got actual wadding. We'll use a different wick in this one so that we can give it the Zippo recommended S, or interweaving throughout the wadding. There was a little bit of rust or something there on that wadding, so I just went ahead and pulled that off. It's one long strand of cotton, looks like, or rayon, whatever that is. And that may have been a little bit longer than the wicks you find in the solid foam fuel cell lighters, but it doesn't look any more structurally sound. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to preserve that to include with the lighter when I sell it. Yeah, I'm not a huge Stallone fan, but I'm not a detractor or anything anyway. So I've enjoyed watching it. It's been a lot of fun. All right. Go ahead and clean that windscreen up a little bit too. That is terrible. If I can locate my toothpick again. Kind of limited at times over here where I do these live streams in Deep Deuce of Oklahoma City. Don't have all my tools and don't have a drill with me, so I'm about to try to clear that Flint tube, and if it's a particularly difficult one, then you guys may get to see me struggle because I don't have the drill to depend on today. Pretty dirty. But you get this carbon buildup in any old lighter that's been used much, any new lighter that's been used much. Just trying to use a piece of this cotton to kind of dry out. Dry out that moisture that disinfectant cloth left in the windscreen. So that looks nice and clean. Grab a drill bit. Hopefully I don't make too big a mess here. And let's see how difficult or easy it's going to be to get through that degraded flint. So we talked about this before. Now, I can't remember, I think it was a video I shot yesterday. I had one that you don't see this very often, but that particular lighter, not this one, but the one in the video that you'll see later this week, with the flint screw all the way in, but no flint installed, the tip of the flint spring still didn't touch the file. So in that case, you might not be able to determine that just from the fact that the screw was all the way down. Usually if the screw's all the way down and the wheel is turning freely, then it's obstructed. But this one you can know for sure, because we can judge here by the length of it's going up in there and tell it's not going far enough. So get the dust, majority of it anyway, off of that, and you can see where there's already some dust falling out of there. So hopefully this won't be too difficult. So I've told you guys many times, my hands aren't really conducive, aren't good enough for the difficult tasks, but that was one of the more easy ones I've ever had. I was kind of hoping, for the benefit of the live stream, that it might take a while. But easy enough. Kind of sliding that in there. You can feel down there toward the end where maybe there's some debris still clinging to the top of that tube. I don't recall ever seeing a part tube come loose from its insert. Thank you, NAFTA. I appreciate that. Any of you guys that have the wrench see something like that and want to act upon it, feel free. So I think that's going to get it clear enough. And it's going to take me just a moment. I'm going to have to go find another flint. But then we'll get that insert re-wicked. Yeah, the NAFTA happened. It's happened. That's about the third one of these streams that we've done where that's happened. And I think it's fine as long as nobody interacts with it. But I don't remember now whether there was a link on that one or not. But hopefully nobody interacts in those before it can be dealt with. See if I can steal this flint out of this butane lighter. That talk about how I test all the butane lighters I get. This is one of them that appeared to hold the fuel, but it'll only hold it pretty much overnight. So you're wasting fuel by using it. I've had that one forever though. Several years, really cool, just leaks gas almost imperceptibly. Huh. Flint must have been there a long time. I don't remember having flint of that tone recently. So now let's go ahead and test the flint out first. And as you can see, there was still something obstructing it, wouldn't let it through. So I'll get my Well, that seems like that should definitely be clear now. But still is not making contact with the file wheel. I don't know if that flint is. Flint looks like it might be bigger. I don't even know what kind of lighter that was. Okay, so now we got contact. That flint must have been bigger. I don't see that very often. Especially in a, what does it say, Yorkshire, windproof Japan. But if you look at the 1954 lighter repair manual, and it's talking about flints and their sizes, it acts like every one of them's actually got a different size flint. So I guess it stands to reason you're going to run across some that are a little bit bigger every now and then. Alright, so I'm going to try to put that wadding back through there about like it was. Keep it all in one piece. Does everybody here in the chat rewick their own lighters? Have any problems drilling out flint tubes or anything like that? I get emails and questions on a daily basis. People want to pay me to do that for them, and I don't really do that anymore. I never have done it where I was charging anybody. I just did it as a favor. And make a video here and there of some of those. And I've explained in some other videos why I don't like doing that anymore. But it just makes me wonder how many people are willing to do this kind of stuff themselves when I get so many offers to pay me to do it for them. We'll get a little bit of this started down here. Fold the wick in as we go. Sorry, got a little off the camera there. Feed this other end of it down the back side of the tube. Now we'll get our felt pad back on. Dirty side out. So now after you say you do this kind of work on your own, and what did I do with the flint? There it is. And now, Sean, you're saying you haven't rewicked too many? I don't even know where I'd start to think about how many I've rewicked. I haven't been doing this all that long, just what, a little over 5 years. But in those 5 years, I don't know, I've done hundreds for sure. I doubt if it's reached to 1,000. But these insert style lighters, they're pretty easy. It's the closed tanks, the Ronson table lighters, the Dunhill roller lights, even the Ronson standards, those are the more difficult to rewick than these insert style. So we get that wick bloomed out on the top so that there's plenty of opportunity to catch spark. I saw somebody explaining that in one of the Facebook lighter groups a few years ago. But this past week I also saw that in the 1954 lighter repair manual. That instruction is actually printed there for that purpose, to give you more opportunity for that spark to catch. Since we filled that other one up with the Zippo fuel. We'll do this one with the Roncinol. This is another advertising lighter with just simple text. Hinge is tighter on it. Interesting color scheme or pattern with the crosshatch on the top and then the sort of, oh, I forget what you call that. Satin, with satin finish of the bottom. Both the top and the bottom are, or I should say the case and the lid, are made of aluminum. Cool. You ought to make a video on that, Sean. He says he's going to rewick his Eclipse safety lantern. Yeah, naphtha, it's kind of how I feel. There's a whole lot more to it. Can't remember the guy's name, but there was a guy that started commenting on several of my videos where people had asked about butane, how to fix butane lighters, and I'm not trying to blow them off. I just don't know anything about them, and I don't have a great desire to learn a lot about butane lighters. A lot of them seem to be piezo sparked, and I don't know. There's just, I like Flint sparked petrol fueled lighters. Anyway, yeah, I don't know how anybody can look at the two and act like there's no difference between repairing a petrol lighter and repairing a butane lighter. It's apples and oranges. Two completely different machines. They may both produce a flame, but how they get it, how they achieve that flame. The petrol lighter is very elementary, basic principles. The butane is a little bit different. Are you talking about you could do the video, Sean? I say you could and you should. I'd like to see it. I've already burnt that wick a little bit. So even with petrol, even with those basic principles that we're working off of, it's still hard to understand sometimes why a wick will burn in a fully fueled lighter, or why a clean wicked fueled lighter doesn't light like it should. That's interesting. Who knows why some of these were just marked made in USA, and the insert on that one is not marked Park Industries either. We all know this is a Park Industries lighter though. No doubt about that. Now that one is marked Park made in USA, and the insert was marked Murfreesboro. Huh. Yeah. I don't know what to say about that, Sean. It always makes me nervous. Anything. I don't even like having natural gas in my house. Now, when it comes to a petrol lighter, everything is so enclosed. You know, if you just deprive it of oxygen by closing the snuffer, assuming the lighter has a snuffer, then you're going to be okay. But I don't know about one of those lamps. They may carry more fuel. What kind of fuel do those lamps use? Paraffin? Paraffin. Okay. Paraffin oil. Interesting. Yeah, so I don't know how volatile that kind of stuff is. So, yeah, if it leaks, that would definitely worry me a little bit. Kerosene doesn't burn very hot or very fast, I don't think. Is that the way this paraffin oil is? You just put regular like Zippo fuel in it, Sean? And it worked like that? That's funny. I lit that lighter last week. It was making noise. Somebody said it was interfering with the microphone. Those don't appear to be making that whooshing noise that one was making last week. Now you're talking about naphtha and these other fuels. Our friend Robert Hollingsworth had hit me up in the email a couple of months ago about hand warmers and alternate fuels for those. And look at that, that one blew out. Alternate fuels for hand warmers. Those lighters really heat up when you leave them lit. And that got me to thinking about alternate fuels, putting naphtha or kerosene or other fuels in a petrol insert. So I still plan to do that at some point. People ask all the time what happens if you do this or do that. So it'd be kind of fun to make a video and just show what happens when you do it. I apologize for the microwave and the background noise. But like if you try to use kerosene, I think that I don't think you would ever get the smell of that kerosene flushed out of the wadding. I think you'd end up having to replace the wadding in any insert that you tried to use at least kerosene. I don't know about the what's the other, Coleman fuel or white gas, whatever they call it. I'm not sure if those are going to contaminate it and make it smell as bad, but I've encountered, see that is trying to jump out of the insert there. And that one is heated up, but it's not trying to jump outside of itself just yet. You're saying that it makes you sick, Sean, when you use the naphtha? That doesn't seem good. Same thing with gasoline. I can't imagine lighting a cigarette off of or anything that you're going to inhale off of a wick that has been fueled by gasoline. I can't imagine that would taste good at all and be worth your while. I think you'd probably feel like it ruins your smoke. Yeah, I don't doubt it. I've never, I don't even think I've ever actually smelled naphtha or had a can of it. You can buy it at Walmart here in the States. So I probably will do that at some point, try it out. So you can see, or you did see a while ago, that this lighter had become a problem the way it was burning, the way I left it sitting there. But all we had to do was close the lid, the snuffer, and we were good. That was the point I was trying to make earlier about those lamps. I don't know exactly how those work, if you have the ability to snuff the entire part of it that's lit or not. So how did it, naphtha, when you use that gasoline in a Zippo to light a fire pit, did you ever get the gasoline smell out of that Zippo? For about a month, huh? Yeah, well, I don't know. I've encountered some lighters that have had something in them that they smelled, and the wadding was more oily than it should have been. And then I've encountered some other lighters that the wadding and wick, maybe it didn't smell or everything seemed fine, but you just never could get them to light. So you didn't have to change out the insert and the wadding when that happened to get the gasoline smell to go away. Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, people siphoning gasoline all the time. My dad, my uncles, not because they were stealing it from anybody else, but robbing it from one of their vehicles to put in a motorcycle or a three-wheeler or something like that, or a boat. Um, so I don't recall ever actually siphoning gas, but man, for some reason, I know I've had it in my mouth, so maybe I at least tried. Um, Maybe they even coaxed me into trying to siphon it. It certainly didn't look like fun the way they did it, because they always ended up with a mouthful of gasoline. See that flame catching there in the back again. Yeah. Yeah, I guess everybody does it at some point or another. Moving resources from one place to another. I do it between bank accounts all the time. But we certainly have other resources that are valuable that we need other than just money. Hello, Azrael. Glad you joined us. We have rewicked a couple of lighters, cleared the flint tube in another. And now this lighter, which still has a little bit of vapor lock going, is also bridging the gap from the chimney to the back of the insert because of the way that it was over fueled, and keeps overheating when we just let it burn. I don't know why that is. I don't know if because it's a good lighter. It's got a good spark, but I think it's probably right at the moment. It's probably the vapor lock that's going on, and like I said, that vapor lock that's causing the ignition is also what's causing the flame to jump back here to the back of the lighter, because typically you wouldn't have fumes coming up that high if it wasn't overfilled. So it's not like it was, I didn't even pour anything out on the surface here when I filled it up. Can't remember now whether it was Zippo or the park instructions that told you if that happened. I think it was Zippo. Said raise the lighter up and try it again. So it obviously didn't work on that one, but it usually will. That's what that is, though. I think that's probably why you're seeing that not light on the first strike. Ooh, that was hot. Yeah, it's sometimes it seems like fairy tales and magic the way lighters work. It's not. I guess it's actually governed by, I don't know, would that be the laws of physics? But it seems like certain lighters the flame is left up to the whim of that lighter for some reason, regardless of whether the principles that say that spark should ignite. But yeah, you can definitely tell that lighter's still overfilled when that flame licks back there onto the lid like that. Yeah. The textured gold lighter. What's up, Fifth Angel? Are you talking about this one? This is a Cygnus. And I fueled this lighter. Let me see if I can look that up. I fueled this lighter on a live stream. Maybe the first one that we did. Which would have been, I think at least a couple of months back now. No, it wasn't the first one we did. It might have been the second one. Which would have been about a couple of months ago. You just got done trying whiskey for the first time. What do you mean by 19%, Azrael? That wouldn't be very strong whiskey. Fifth Angel, I fueled this a couple of months ago, and it's still lighting. These Cygnus table lighters have a big O-ring on the bottom. And a good stout snuffer. So your fuel efficiency on one of these is pretty good. The fuel efficiency on a regular Cygnus pocket lighter is not all that great. Usually about 3 or 4 days. There's just there's not a lot of room in that tank. It's just a straight bore, straight from the bottom up through the top, and it's just not a whole lot of room for fuel. Cheaper kind of whiskey, that is, you're talking about, Azrael? I drank a lot of whiskeys in my day, in my time of drinking. A lot of bourbon, a lot of Canadian whiskey. But I don't drink it anymore. The taste of it, though, I can understand some things that I don't really get. I don't really understand what I ever got out of smoking tobacco cigarettes. It wasn't that enjoyable, and it didn't taste that good. But drinking whiskey can be, despite what the alcohol does to your system and how it inebriates you and all that, the actual drinking of the whiskey can be an enjoyable experience, for sure. No, the bourbons that I drank, Evan Williams, can't even remember now some of the Canadian whiskeys that I was drinking there at the end. But no, they weren't really bitter. They were, most of them, smooth. You could drink them over ice. Maybe with, I did drink some or for during some periods I mix with Coke. So I certainly mix plenty of them too, but I wouldn't say bitter. I'd say maybe bite. Yeah, to each his own for sure. What destroys one man may have no effect on another, and vice versa. Have you guys participated in live streams, say ZF77 Outdoors, or I know they gave away a lighter, and he's given away several lighters over the years watching some of his live streams. Do all those channels that do giveaways like that have um, a set of rules? I've looked into doing a giveaway. I've got several lighters that I would like to use for those purposes because of maybe there's somebody's shown interest in them, a few of them along the way, and then they're just not really up to par. Well, I shouldn't say that. I could sell them. I just have to note the blemishes, and some of them have blemishes that might make the value not all that great. Not necessarily that the value's not, that they don't have value, but it just seems better to me to give something like that away. That's the reason I do end up selling a lot of lighters um, off in lots. If I can't list it as a working lighter, so that may be another aspect of why I might consider giving away a lighter and something like that. Maybe something that still needs some work, something that maybe has run its course on what I feel like I can do, but maybe somebody else has a touch with wicks or whatever the problem might be to where they might want to tackle it. Yeah, project lighters. And that's the way I usually list those, project lot or project group. Still, project makes it sound like it's still under construction. It's not a finished product yet. But like I said, it's not really about the. It's more about a feel of a certain lighter. Like I've got a um, clear float table lighter that's been sitting over on the bench in Mesta Park for a couple of years now. And I think it was Luscious Collectibles that asked me, showed some interest in it, and asked me if I'd ever considered doing a giveaway. But then when I checked into it at the time, YouTube told me I had to have that group of rules. That's kind of why I was wondering whether you guys had any experience with that. I just need to figure out what the norm is, how they normally give something like that away, and how you do that while still um, abiding by YouTube's privacy policy. Seems like a assignment in high school or something, hunting down all that information. YouTube won't tell you what the rules have to be. They just will tell you that it can't violate the privacy policy. But obviously you have to have some way of people entering. And by doing that, they're identifying themselves. And then when they do, if they were to win, then you're going to have to mail it to them somehow. So, or get it to them somehow. And typically with a YouTube giveaway, even NAFTA, who's not all that far down the street from me, up the turnpike, I would probably still mail it rather than drive it or meet somewhere. So anyway, I guess I'm going to have to do that homework on my own and come up with those rules and figure out how they don't violate YouTube's privacy policy if I want to do some giveaways. Yeah, that's another good one there, Sean. Needs a little attention. And that can be tricky. You know, it took me forever. That K-Row Swiss-made roller lighter, plated. It took me forever to get that thing tuned in to where it would light reliably, dependably. And I didn't come up with that name. I can't remember whether I came up with the name first or the website, with the username on eBay or the website. But when I came up with that name, Dependable Flame, there was a purpose for that. And that was not just that the lighters I was selling might or might not work. They were going to be dependable. So. You won't see the flame on that Cygnus lighter jumping back. It's a closed tank. It does look like that fuel is running low though. So maybe 2 months is about all you're going to get out of a big Cygnus table lighter like that, which still is going to have a good deal of wadding in it and is packed pretty densely. So 2 months for that amount of fuel is, I'm certainly not going to complain about it, but I don't complain about a 3-day Zippo or a 3-day Cygnus. I know it's important to a lot of people, but try to improve it if I can. And if I only had one lighter to work with, then maybe I'd, sweat it. But some of it, I don't think there's any, a Cygnus is a Cygnus pocket lighter. Has a snuffer that closes on the wick. Most of them, I think all of them that I have either a gasket or an O-ring on the fuel screw, and they still don't last more than 3 or 4 days. So I just don't know how you're going to improve that. That is definitely on its last gasp if it's not out now. I had this other, I don't think I'd shown this ashtray yet. There were a couple of these in that box, that big box of Tobacciana that I got a couple of months ago from Gavin Lannon. Really cool, heavy, plated. Has a sticker there on it. It says made in China. It's obviously a casting. But then, I don't know how they got, well, I guess the camel was probably cast and then they turn it down, finishing off that part of it. That definitely looks like the bottom there has been machined. Really cool, heavy gauge. 4-rest ashtray. And there were 2 of them. They stacked together real nice. Maybe I'll sell those 2 together. The only way that I really know, Sean, if it's actually dulled, I don't think so. Um, you might be able to find a small file that you could somehow, you know, sharpen some of it up a little bit, but you might be doing damage to other parts of it at the same time. The best thing that I've used is, it's like a small precision standard screwdriver to push old degraded flint or buildup out from between those striations in the wheel. You can also try different solvents. You don't ever want to put oil or anything like that on there that's going to inhibit the spark. But I don't really think there's a way to sharpen one back up. I could be wrong. Yeah, it's always good to have extra fuel with you, or extra lighters, several lighters that are fueled, so that they don't run out at the same time. What's up, Big John? I started to mention you earlier. Glad to have you with us. I hope all you guys had a good Thanksgiving, and now we got Christmas just around the corner. I'm doing well, John. It's warm enough here in Oklahoma City today that I can step out on the balcony comfortably with a jacket on. So I got no complaints. It's just, we're right here at the beginning of winter, so if I start complaining now, I really got a problem, I guess. But the cold, bitter air affects me a lot harsher than it used to. But so far, the winter has been fairly mild. I think we ran the fuel out of the Cygnus table lighter. Well, not quite. It's still light 1 or 2, but you wouldn't want to wait around too long. And we'll have a video on this guy tomorrow. You may have seen the short, and you probably saw the repair video. I think it's already run out of fuel too. Well, maybe not. Still got a little bit left. This is my favorite lighter right at the moment. You didn't get a notification about the live stream? I don't know how that works. I've been going over to the Discord and tagging, using that add everyone tag, because that seems to be the best notification. I do get notifications on YouTube when ZF77 or J-Row Lights, trying to remember who else recently, has been doing live streams that I've gotten those notifications for. But for some reason, the Discord notification always stands out to me. So that's why I started going over there and letting everybody know. I do the same thing. I posted on the dependableflame.com Facebook page and Facebook group. So if you follow either one of those, then you might be able to get the notification a little quicker that way. That's I also share. I haven't been sharing the live stream link over to Pinterest, but most mornings when the video gets published, so Monday and then Wednesday through Friday lately, I go and share that to the Facebook group, the Facebook page, and then to Pinterest. But I don't share my video over to the Discord page every day, or the Discord feed, whatever you call that. I don't do that every day. I figure the ones of you guys that are on the Discord, y'all know where my videos are at, and I do see occasionally some of the other guys, Lippy Guitar and trying to remember who else, at times have shared my video links over there. There are several things, though, John, that I don't understand about YouTube and the way that it works. They seem to have a handle on it recently as far as like the spam or pornography type stuff in the comments. I don't ever see that anymore. And used to, it was like every morning I had to go and erase some of that stuff. But like on the live stream, we had a bot in here earlier, it looked like, and spreading some kind of pornography or something. But so I don't know why some stuff, and same thing with comments. The notifications that I get on comments on my videos, sometimes they fall between the cracks, especially a comment on somebody else's comment, replying to somebody else's comment. I don't get that notification. But sometimes it's just a regular comment and I don't get it either on YouTube or in the YouTube studio, which is kind of like the back office. Yeah, I don't understand it either, John. When they say, when you hit that bell for all, I assume that, or at least that I did assume that meant as soon as something was published by that channel that I would get a notification. But that's not the case, because I get notifications all the time that I get right now. Go and check, and so as soon as I was notified, I went and watched the video, and it had already been published for hours, sometimes a day, before I even got the notification. What is CGTN, Sean? Is that a YouTube channel? If you're talking about a live stream, I assume it probably is. I've been wanting one of these for a long time. And this is actually a Springfield, Illinois lighter. You can see that's not the typical aluminum insert that you expect from those later Murfreesboro made lighters. Look at the one that's marked here. So that one's marked Precision Made by Park Sherman, Springfield. Precision Made by Park Industries, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Same spring system, maybe even the same material on the spring, But the body is definitely made out of different material, and it looks like the windscreen as well. But you definitely know when you get a hold of one of these better made, more solid feeling inserts. I think all of those, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm not stating this for a fact. But I don't know that I've ever seen one of the better made inserts that came out of Murfreesboro. That may have been all before they made that move. And now it's acting like it is indeed out of fuel. I thought it was out over the weekend though. I tried to use it at one point and it That brings up so many questions, Sean. I'll have to check it out to see exactly what kind of channel that is. But like I said, I don't really think that bot is any danger to anybody as long as they don't click on whatever link and go over there and get their identity stolen or their IP address hacked or whatever by, I don't know. I don't click on that kind of stuff. Have to think next time about a project that I could do live on here. We did the cleaning out of the tube on this one. And then the changing of the wick in both of them. We just used the same wadding. Solid foam fuel cell in that one. And I'm going to spend the rest of the day working on a couple of videos that I shot yesterday and need to be edited, and then listing some lighters. Christmas time coming up. Got to make a little bit of money, so I'll be moving a few of them on. Yeah. Is that what you call them, advertising? Maybe I took the clue from the name. The name of the account was Big Sex something, so I assumed it was pornography. Maybe not. Either way, I assume most people know to stay away from that. Don't click on those links. Same with your email. I don't know, I guess they can get you through text messages now too. If you click on the wrong thing. I don't know how easy or difficult that is to do. Yeah, if you're, I think probably, John, it would stick. Are you talking about basically putting an image on a lighter that you didn't necessarily want it to stay permanently? I think it would scratch off pretty easy. Yeah, I think you can definitely do stuff like that. Just like people do take emblems or the emblem that is actually like a hat pin, cut the hat pin off of it and glue it to a lighter. Yeah, there's definitely some ways that you could do that. Kind of like well, it wouldn't be a wrap, but kind of like a cheap embellishment on your lighter. Yeah, I guess well, I think you should probably just be able to soak it in water to get it to come off. So yeah, I think you could probably do that. You just, depending on, you might need to be careful what you put it in your pocket with, things like that, if you didn't want it to chip off there pretty quick. But yeah, I would definitely think that, I don't know, I haven't messed with anything like that in a long time. I don't know if there's better quality temporary tattoos, or if we're just talking about something you might find in a package at the checkout at Walmart. But either way, I think that, yeah, for the purposes that you're talking about, I think that could work. Okay, Naphtha says he thinks he saw the number 69 in the bot's name, so there's another clue. It's like some of the Facebook lighter groups. I guess the admin, and the one I'm thinking about, I think it only has one admin, so maybe it's just not that engaged. But there are these groups where people come on with post these live videos, like they're in um, I don't know, an international bazaar somewhere, selling sunglasses or watches. I don't know that I've ever actually seen one where they were selling lighters. But yeah, it's just not appropriate. Not appropriate for those pages, and I don't think it's appropriate for. I think that YouTube ought to be able to figure out a way to cut that out, though. What's up, Eastwald? Glad to have you back. Did you get your video finished? Yeah, I can see where you might want to do that, John. Like for, let's say for St. Patty's Day, you're going out with your friends, you want to put a shamrock or a four-leaf clover on your lighter, but you don't necessarily want to go buy a whole lighter with a expensive painted graphic or something on it. You just want to take one of your plain lighters and give it a dress up for a day or two. So Eastwa, I meant to. I think I asked you last week, and I can't remember if you answered me. If you did, I missed. I missed the answer. But in your videos, if it has a patent number on that lighter, do you always include an image of the patent in the video? Well, with some of the editing that you got going on in those videos, I can imagine it's probably easier to work on them one at a time. Like we were talking about last week, I've kind of gotten my daily videos down since I'm not in them here lately. It's a lot easier to edit them. When I say I'm not in them, my face or my anything about me other than my hands and my voice. So yeah, I'm able to batch some videos pretty quick sometimes. If you got a lighter you got to fix, and then you can make the show and tell video for it. Sometimes it'll be fix two lighters and three show and tells. Show and tell for two of those same lighters, and then another one that didn't need repaired. And there's 5 videos in a day. Gotcha. That's really cool aspect of it. for sure. And something that I don't have the patience. That would drive me crazy trying to hunt down all that information. So, Eastwa, what do you think? You said you couldn't find the patent for the Cygnus. Do you think there's a possibility that that patent number on those Cygnus, which yeah, it is on this one. Some of it's not marked on, but there you see 364149. I think is the number. Do you think that's a real patent number, or do you think maybe that's just a number that they made up and that there was no actual paperwork filed? I do have I believe it's the Prince Pocket Cygnus that I have. The one that's marked Prince has a different patent number on it than all the Cygnuses. But yeah, Big John, you definitely, I don't know if you've been seeing Eastwaz, or I don't even know if he's been posting on YouTube, but the TikTok videos, those are very detailed and interesting and sort of happy-go-lucky and fun, and you really enjoy those. Yeah, yeah, I didn't. I wonder, Eastwall, because like I said, I've read several different accounts about how those factories came to be, and they came out of the occupation. And apparently, the American general that was running all that, or was over all that during the occupation, just blatantly encouraged them to steal ideas and put them into production. And like I said, the Cygnus, that's not the case, because it's a unique thumb roller mechanism. You mentioned that Cartier, I should have looked to see if I could find that, to see how close of a mechanism it is. The Cupid and the Viscount are similar but different. So I certainly don't think that idea was stolen from a Western manufacturer like some of the others were, but the validity of the patent, I've always wondered whether there was anything to that, or whether they were basically just making it up and printing something on the lighter for it to look like they'd gone through that process, or maybe there was no patent process in Japan at that particular time. Recovering from, what were they, atomic bombs at the time? Yeah, that kind of bothers me. The lighters that you see brand new for AliExpress, the Zorro or Chief, or I don't remember the other brands, but Torrens, which looks like I mean, some of them look like you might be able to take some of those parts and put them right over on an old Thorns. Can't remember. It seems like the one that I saw, the reproduction, and like I said, I think the name on it was Torrens, but I think it was a double claw. But yeah, I've seen the Abdullah, the kick starts, all kinds of mechanisms that they're remaking. And for the most part, it shouldn't be a problem, but the longer they're out there and get mixed in with other lighters, and definitely be easier for people to buy something like that in a group of unidentified stuff, not realizing what it was. But you can do the same thing with there are Dunhill lift arm lighters that just from the surface you look at might look like the old petrol, and they're actually butane fueled, and so whatever. A lot of the Ronsons, the banjos, they reproduced some of those back in the 1990s, and you watch the post by Larry Leiter on Facebook. He says that they're still being produced. I don't know if that's in China or Japan, but yeah, there's definitely old mechanisms that have been put back into production that you need to be aware of. Yeah, the one I saw, Sean, I think it where they were Thorn's, the vintage company is the one that I think they still make audio equipment like turntables maybe, but you spell that Thorens, and I think that knockoff lighter that I saw on eBay with the similar mechanism, I think they had spelled it Torrens, so two R's and no H. Yeah, I don't know if you're talking about the reproduction that has a windshield, and they did have windshields on some of the original ones. It wasn't all that common. You see a lot more of them without the windshields than ones that did, but it's kind of cool how they're fixed in place too. Wow. Yeah, I didn't know I hadn't seen one of the NASA reproductions. Yeah, I guess it's probably still better than a disposable lighter, um, or a piezo or whatever. But it's I do think that it could create a problem just because some people aren't going to know. If they don't know that's out there and they see that in a listing. But you got to be careful like that, especially when you're buying unidentified stuff. If you can't get I would think they're marked. They're not. Now the Ronson, that stuff is marked Ronson, just not necessarily marked the same way it was back when it was originally produced. But it is marked with the Ronson company, where at least these others that we're talking about, they may try to put a similar type name on it, but the ones that I saw, I've got a lighter that's branded Chief somewhere around here that is a knockoff of the Colibri kickstart mechanism. But it was a very well made lighter. I think it may be the same company that made the Zorro, but obviously it wasn't an old lighter, and it wasn't marked the same as a Colibri kickstart that was produced. It wasn't even marked Colibri kickstart. So I guess really not all that big a deal as long as they're marked, identified as something newer, or at least that people who, with just a little bit of knowledge would know it wasn't the original lighter. You think all those, the Zorro, the Chief, and all those Torrens, all those come from the same factory? Probably so. No, I don't think it'll devalue the originals either. Um, I guess, I don't know what it does to the value if you get a lighter that's not working and you replace it with some parts from something like that. Yeah, and it's one thing too if you're copying it and also faking the name. If you're saying you're copying it and saying that DuPont or Cartier made it when they didn't, then that would be a problem. Seems like people point out those fake DuPonts pretty easy. Seems like the number one thing is the serial number being stamped on there too straight. And it also is at the DuPont that there's, I can't remember whether it's DuPont or maybe the Dunhill roller gas, that there's some particular serial numbers that those starting numbers are always fake, I think. Ping sounds different on the fake DuPont. I always think that's funny when they talk about the distinctive ping of the DuPont, because I just wasn't aware that that had a distinctive sound. Everybody talks about the Zippo. What is that? Is that a Zippo click? What's the sound? They don't describe that as a ping, do they? Wow. That is crazy. Yeah, I guess though, if they're not held to, if there's nobody there to enforce those laws, I assume we're probably talking about Chinese factories. I had never owned a DuPont lighter. Do the DuPont petrol lighters make the same ping as the butane lighters? Good to know. Well, the chances of me getting ripped off on a butane lighter Eastwar are not very good, because I don't buy them. At least I don't buy them for these same kind of purposes, and I don't have the money to be buying a DuPont just to use, even though it might be more dependable and might not have to be adjusting them as much as I do these jet lights. For the money though, these jet lights I got no complaints. Well, other than the fact that it's a piezo. Still good lighters. And for the most part not made out of plastic. Some parts of this upper portion of it look like they could be either cheap pot metal or some kind of chrome plated plastic, some synthetic material. Yeah, that's interesting that you say that, Eastwa, and I hadn't thought about that. You living in France, there would be a lot of DuPonts there, and I can't remember who. Somebody commenting on one of the videos, asking me questions about park lighters at one point. They made that point. You know, I live here in the States, so I see a lot of park lighters, even though they weren't really made near Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Illinois. Illinois is probably closer than Tennessee, but you know, both of them several hours away. But yeah, there are park lighters laying all over the place around here. Seems like I see park lighters as often as I see Zippos. And actually, I probably see better quality park lighters just laying around out in the wild around here in Oklahoma City and this general vicinity than I do Zippos for sure. probably because a lot of people look at it and it says park, and if they're just a pure Zippo person, then they're not going to care. But and these are okay. I mean, these are nice, and they got relevant advertising that somebody will be interested in them. But not anywhere near as cool as the painted graphic park lighters, and of course these aren't the kind that I've typically found laying around out at antique malls, flea markets, that kind of places here in Oklahoma City. I think I bought all these nicer parks online, most of them off of eBay. But there's still been a good number of good quality, interesting park advertising lighters that just don't have the same appeal in some people's eyes as a Zippo. Now, where was the Nassau made at? Eastwa? I would say, Big John, that the hinge, you can run into some Zippos with really tight hinges. And yeah, I've maybe had a park or two like that. I don't know about as many as Zippos. The side-to-side portion of it, yes, I feel like it is perhaps more solid than a Zippo. Where the park has a problem is in this brute force leaf spring that it employs, along with this stop on the lid. There's a lot of pressure being applied there, and with the softer aluminum cases and lids, a lot of times you'll end up with an overbite or stress put on the hinge in one way or another that causes it some damage. So I don't know that I would say it's better, but that particular aspect of it, the side-to-side aspect, I think it may be a little more solid. The Nassau was made in America. I didn't realize that. And if I remember correctly, don't they make versions of that with a wick and not necessarily in combination, but maybe either or, a wick or a fusee? Weren't there Nassau lighters that had a fusee instead of a wick? Yeah, it's. I think that's why you see some of them that end up sort of canted or kind of like bucking up here in the back, because you can see. I mean, at that point, it feels like a good deal of pressure, but by the time that it tips over, it's sort of like, um, the difference between a compound and recurve bow. The pressure doesn't get let off of this one until it goes all the way over. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to remember. I don't have any experience with either one of those. I never had an Imperator. Never had, oh, what was that? I think I did a video thinking about old semi-automatic lighters. What was the name of that? Let me go over here to my website. No, that's not going to work. It's going to go to the back office. Let's go this way. So obviously I've had single claws and double claw thorns. And trying to think of other. I never had a Huawei or any of the Crone, any of the Imperator, and the Imperator was licensed and made by several actual manufacturers, I believe. Let's see if I made a video for that lighter or not. Yeah, here we go. That was a cool semi-automatic lighter that I bought in a group of others. It actually may have been in that group with that last black crackle that I bought that we were talking about last week that was laying on its side. But this had three-dimensional advertising on it. And I got no idea about the year or anything like that. There's the patent number. 117096. And it had lost a lot of its plating. I'd stopped putting music in the background of my videos. I used to play country music in the background of all my videos. Cross Canadian ragweed and other red dirt music. But by this point, this was still one of the shorter videos, but I was at least given a little description.
Be what we typically call a semi-automatic.
That was a really cool lighter. Nothing as complex as a Nassau or Imperator or any of those that we were just talking about, but still a pretty cool lighter. That I still don't remember if I've seen another one since then. Not a real common lighter, I don't think.
Glory lighter, made in Austria. Glory Automat. Has some other markings there that I'm not aware of what it means. Triangle with some letters in it. Patent number there. This particular lighter.
So yeah, I've those Imperators, the round Richard Crone lighters, and there are thorns like those as well, or at least look similar. I'm always keen to get a hold of something like that or find something like that that I haven't had before. So you were looking at similar models to what on AliExpress, Sean? Similar models to that Glory lighter there, that semi-automatic, a little boxy looking. Interesting. Eastwa says there is a Richard Crone patent link to the patent number on that model. I assume you're talking about the Glory Automat. I believe it was. I think that's how it was marked. Austria. Can't make out all that mark on top. Austria, and then there's a pyramid or triangle with a, is that ICEB? Glory patent, or Glory Automat patent number 117096. That's interesting. Yeah, obviously it had been through some, the lighter had some issues and was missing more of its plating than it had, but it still worked real well. Had a screwdriver on the field screw, and I can't remember. I don't think that was a spare Flint compartment 2, or I think I would have removed it. But it's possible that maybe I was ignorant of it. Looks like it still had its gasket. That's been a good while back. I had that lighter I only had that one for maybe a couple of months. I sold it pretty quick. If I remember correctly, I listed it for about $135 and sold it for about that. Maybe a little less, maybe 125 or 30. I may have accepted an offer, but I'm almost certain I listed it for $135, which was more than I paid for the group I bought it in. But there's a page, the archived Glory lighters. There's a good chance that there's never another listing added to that page. We'll see. Where some of these others, the Zippo page, it's already got a bunch. That Town and Country Geese, the Marijuana Leaf Slim, the Marlboro Cowgirl, which now resides with Dylan DePie. There's that lighter. Gnarly News was asking me last week about brass camels. I bought that one at a place over on 10th and May. The Ancient of Days. Oh, it's over there in that complex, not that store, but in that complex. And I had a couple other Marlboro brass back before I started. I bought this, well, that was a Camel. This is a Marlboro. I bought this Marlboro brass Cowboy the same day as I bought that Camel Joe, or Tuxedo Joe, whatever it's called. That was a really cool lighter to find unidentified in a group. Right after I had just read an article on the Passionate Wick about Town and Country Zippos and the patterns, to look down and see that lighter unidentified and not prominently, and not even in every photo in the listing, was kind of startling. Repaired hinge, line drawn golfer. I wish I'd started archiving lighters like this before, like the Air America Zippo, Vietnam Zippo I had, the Black Crackles. So I've owned 3 Black Crackles, and none of them are even here in this listing, or in this Zippo archive. But I've just been doing it this way since about sometime in the fall of 2020, so a couple of years. What's up, Carl? I know no Zippo tricks. I can't whip out a trick. And if I did, my carpal tunnel ridden hands would just betray me anyway, so. You have to go to Zippo Fanatic 77 or some of those guys for that stuff. I treat my hinges with respect and try to keep them in good condition. I don't know how you could do tricks with a Park the way you do with the Zippo, but even if you can, I'm not going to try it. But I appreciate your enthusiasm. Well, I appreciate you guys joining me today. And we'll convene here again next week. Tuesday, 10 a.m. Have a cup of coffee and maybe have a project or two. Have a discussion or two. We can talk about anything you guys want. East Wall, I can't post in here, can I? I can't write. I don't think I can. Trying to remember, if you'll go to, I've got my email listed here at Contact Us page. You can email me right there. You can text me right there. Obviously, you could call me on that number too, but you're not going to be able to send that information through a phone call. But then there's also Facebook has a pretty good, the chat application over there on Facebook is pretty good too. You can send pictures back and forth. So take your pick, man. You can get a hold of me any of those ways. Email bossman@dependableflame.com, that phone number, or then, like I said, Facebook's pretty easy too. And I appreciate you looking that up, Eastwa. It's the kind of stuff that makes my head hurt. And maybe I need to educate myself a little bit better on some of it. And maybe if I just was educated about how it worked, it wouldn't make my head hurt so bad. But it seems like every time I go looking for that kind of information, it's not very fruitful. So I tend to rely on, like I said, the Passionate Wick, the Toledo Bend VCL website, Frank Dutton's page, and then some of the others here and there. But that's the majority of it. Pretty much the Toledo Bend VCL website and whatever information they have about patents and such. Interesting. You're talking about Aronson? See you, NAFTA. See you, Sean. Big John. Azrael was here with us for a little bit. Carl, the park was made in Springfield, Illinois, and later Murfreesboro, Tennessee. The actual park company, Park Sherman, was around since 1914, so way before Zippo. So appreciate all you guys and anybody that I forgot to mention here. NAFTA, Sean, Eastwa, and we will talk to you guys next week. So long.